Ready to find out how spookily easy this cauldron is to make? Keep watching and we'll show you all the tricks you need to know to make your very own. Hi, I'm Summer with Designer DIY and I'm excited to show you how easy this really is. All you need is a metal wreath frame, some 10-inch mesh, a cute pick of your choice, and some ribbons. I used one of our bow kits, but I'm going to show you everything you need so you can make your own. Let's get started. What we're starting with is one of our pre-wired wreath bases, and I'm going with our black one. And as you see, there is a top smaller circle and a back larger circle. We're going to start on the inner circle first. You're going to take one bolt of 10-inch mesh, and we're not going to cut it apart. We're just going to take this and we're going to take the end and gather it with a couple inches that's left out loose. And what I'm going to do with that loose end, since it's going to be frayed and everything over time, I take it and I just tuck it under. So I'm going to open this pair of pine that's here and my mesh. I'm going to poke the loose end in towards the center, and then I take my pine and I just do 1, 2 twists around it. Then I'm going to take my mesh and I kind of tuck in the edges, and I'm going to go straight across to the one that is right next to it, but the long ways across the wreath base, and still just staying on the top inner circle. And I take it and I'm going to just make it a little loose fluff like that. And I'm going to come up, my pine tight, and twist. Then I'm going to take my mesh all the way across the wreath, and I'm going to go to the pine that is right next to the first one that I did. I'm going to open them up, put my mesh right in there, kind of a loose fluff, twist and twist. And you're just going to continue doing this zigzagging all the way across your inner small circle. I just did my last pine that is on the top circle. Now, without cutting my mesh, I am just going to take it directly to the pine that is closest to it, but now we're going to work on the bigger outer ring. And we're going to take it and tighten it. We don't need a fluff there. We're just trying to get it to be onto the back ring. And then I'm going to take my mesh and go directly to the next one. Now we're just working on the back ring. This is kind of our smaller fill-in. And if you watched our tutorial on how to make the pumpkin wreath, it is the same technique, but at the end is how we're going to change the look. So we just did that. Now I'm going to take it, and this time I'm going to try and keep my lines. I'm going to tuck in these little inner pine as I come to them. But now I'm going to try and keep my lines a little straighter because this is going to be the top of our pumpkin. So I'm going to take it next to the first one we did, double twist, take your mesh all the way across so you'll be covering the first layer of mesh. Making it kind of open. Use your pine, twist, and just continue doing this back and forth until you've used all of the back pine. Now we have finished our first layer on the back ring, but it's the second layer altogether, which makes it look really full. And I still have some mesh left, so I'm gonna go back and kind of fill in my gaps. We want it to look more circular, so it definitely looks like it's a witch's cauldron. I'm gonna take it And I'm going to go up to this loop right above it, tuck it in, and then I'm done with those pines, so I'm just going to push them behind my mesh. And then I happen to have a pine right here, but I don't want to go there because I don't want that pucker. So I'm going to skip it and go down to this next one. So really, you get to use your wreath base, how it's wired, and there's no set formula. It's just you want to shape it into a nice full dome looking. So I'm done with that pine. Now instead of going straight across, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the one that's next to it and twist my pine in. Now for the cauldron, you don't want to go and fill in all of this side because on the bottom is where we're going to put our flames, and on the top is where we'll have our witch's brew spilling over. You're just going to kind of go like that, and then you can just continue going back and forth until your mesh is done to make it look that extra fullness. Now I am at the end of my mesh, and again this side, like our first one, is going to have that raw edge that will fray on us. So I'm just going to take that edge, tuck it under, and I am just going to tuck it in to this closest pine that it can reach. And take it, and then tuck in the ends. And this little side is kind of poking out, so you can either pull it loose or just tuck it into to make it the shape you want. So that is the base of our witch's cauldron. Now let's add some flames to see what she is boiling. You can use any colors of mesh, orange, red, yellow, really to make it look like a fire. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use our metallic orange mesh and our fabric orange mesh and put them together so it's all orange, but the different textures give it a little depth. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut some pieces. There's no exact, but I would say about 10 inches. And I'm going to give myself some metallic ones and then some fabric pieces. Some 10-inch pieces cut of my fabric mesh and metallic mesh, and I cut about 5-6 of each, and I'll put them in, and then I'll see if I think it needs to be a little fuller, and you can always keep cutting. Where we're going to start is, do you see how we have these open pieces of wire? We're going to zip tie our fire right into those places. So what I'm going to do is what we call our pulled technique that we use on our pulled wreaths. And I take the mesh and I find opposite corners and I pull them like that so it's kind of a spiky loose tube. And I'm going to take a fabric mesh and a metallic mesh together to make them intertwined. You can do it with all 3 colors, you can do 1 color. It doesn't really matter, we're just trying to make it full. So I'm going to take them and I make an X like that. Then I'm going to put it right against the wire frame. Take your zip tie around, go and pull it nice and tight. And I'm gonna go add all of my flames before I go to cut off my zip ties. So I'm gonna take another grouping just like that. Pull them, make an X, grab a zip tie. And this time, instead of just being on the outer ring, I'm gonna go on this middle ring and try to make them flame. Maybe this one I want to point more up towards the top of my cauldron. Go through, pull your zip tie around, and go through. Now you're just going to repeat this very easy step over and over until basically you can't fit any more mesh or you think there's plenty for what the look you're going for. So we're just going to continue it on like the bottom quarter of our cauldron. All right, I have put in all of my orange pieces and I took my pliers and snipped off all of the zip ties. Looking cute. Now we're going to do that same technique on top for the witch's potion brewing over. I'm going to do lime, and this time I don't want it to look as wild as my flames are, so I am not going to pull my pieces as much. I'm gonna kind of cut around a 10 to 12 inch piece. And I'm gonna keep these more in tubes because I think the edge looks, the round gives it more of a bubble look, like a boil, toil and trouble, like that. So I'm gonna do the same thing, and even though I'm just using one color of mesh, I'm still gonna put 2 or 3 pieces in per group to make it look really full. So I just roll them into loose tubes. You know what, let's do it like we do our wreaths. Let's put 3 pieces in, and a 3rd loose tube, and I make my X, and then I put the 3rd one right up top. Now let's grab a zip tie, and just like we used the metal at the bottom, we're going to use these metal pieces that are up top. And I'm going to put my mesh against the metal, zip tie goes under the metal, over the mesh, and pull it nice and tight like that. So they look like these cute little curly bubbles. And you're just going to do that on top as full as you want your potion to be. We have all of our potions in and brewing. And it's cute just as it is, but it's always better when you add more. So what we're gonna add now is we're gonna take one of our ghost picks and kind of pull it apart, and we're going to have our friendly spirits flying around our potion. So each pick is already wired, so I pulled the ghost off, and I really love these gold sparkly twigs. So I'm gonna pull all of them apart like that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, again, because these wreaths are so sturdy and have so much wire already there, we're going to attach our little friends, the wire that they're on. I'm just taking it and twisting it around the base of my wreath a couple times to make him really secure, and then you can even twist it to itself to make him stand really well. And this one, he's just gonna kind of be peeking over. And then I'm gonna take some of my sparkly sprays, and I'm just gonna pick another place, kind of maybe around him. And again, just take it, go around, and there's no exact way to add your picks in. No right or wrong positioning. You just put one in, flip it over, and see if you like how it's going. And as you go, you'll be like, oh, I really need some over here, I need some over here. So just keep adding them until they're all in. So I have all of my picks in, the little flyaways, our little spirit friends, and it is looking very cute. But of course, we still have to put a bow on it. So what I'm gonna use is the same kind of ribbons that come in our bow kits, where it's 5 different ribbons, instructions, everything you need to learn how to make these really easy bows. Now, since the main color of the cauldron is black, I want to use a bright ribbon for the back to make it stand out. So you kind of have your halfways. And our written directions, if you ever get a bow kit or watch our tutorial, gives you much better detail, but I'm just gonna do it really quick. I'm gonna make the back go a little shorter loop, like that. And for my layers, I'm gonna have some going up, some tails going down, and you just wanna play with what style and shape is going to fit the project you're working on. So this is gonna be my back layer. I take my cloth covered bow wire, go around your loop, take your tails through the center, and then you just kind of bring all of your wires to the back. Nope, this one we're actually gonna do the front because I did my back layer first. And then the next ribbon I want to use is going to be this little frilly spider. The spiders are velvet. Cute. And when you make your next layer, the only trick is really you want to make your loops the same size or smaller depending how you're going to lay it on top. So I'm going to do that. Make my loop, and this time I'm going to have both tails going down. I don't want so much coming up because then it will cover all of our picks and our potion brewing. I'm going to lay it directly on top of the layer that I just did. Split your wires open, put it right on top, and I'm going to twist it a little so it's not covering all of my purple ribbon. And then I take my wire while I'm kind of holding my bow, and I do a single knot. And you're just going to continue doing this for the next 3 layers. Now we have our bow all done, and the one piece of wire we've been using is still long on the back. So I tied it a knot in the back, and all I'm gonna do is kind of find where on your cauldron you want it. You know, some people are more symmetrical and they want it right in the middle, a little off-centered. I'm a little off, so I'm gonna put it off-centered. I'm gonna take the wire around in the back and go, what I'm doing is the rings around it, I'm just taking my wire from my bow around one of those, and I'm going to tie it in a knot like that in the back. And as you're tying it, try not to squish it too much with your wreath, but it is wired ribbon, so it always can be fluffed. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take and kind of place each loop where I want it, anything I might have squished. Then I have my tails all different lengths, and I kind of like it being a little messy, but I do want to cut them, whether I want to do the angled cut or a V cut. I prefer the V, so I kind of fold them in half and cut it. And then of course I will put some fray check on the end so my bow always looks fresh and new. And you're just gonna go cut all of your tails. And then once you've cut them, I like to spread them apart, and the longer ones give a little wave too, that since they're wired, you can really shape them the way you want them to lay on your cauldron. Just cut all your layers. Be sure not to cut another layer, another ribbon, or your mesh. Watch out, sometimes there's so much beautiful mess that it's easy to grab something you're not supposed to cut. And there's another V. And then I have one little crazy tail sticking out up here that I like. So I'll cut him also. Oh, I did that one wrong. He turned into an arrow. So let's fix that one and go in And there's my little V. And now I will take my bottle of Fray Check and I'll run it on all of my edges. And there you go, you have your bow and you have your little pick. Now that you've added all of your special touches, you are done with your beautiful cauldron. I know, it is frightening how easy it is and how beautiful it is. And scary how funny I am. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. We're always adding fun, easy tutorials with ribbons and mesh and all sorts of crafting. And visit our website, designerdiy.shop, for all the materials you need to make this wreath and so many more. Thanks, happy crafting!